This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Today's episode is sponsored by tpublic.com. Head to tpublic.com/stores/Animanicast to visit the Animanicast merchandise store.
And welcome everybody to episode 42 of the Animanicast.
Cappy, you were with the Warner Brothers studio from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, I started with Warner's back when all we made were pies. We just started making cartoons when people weren't buying the pies. I was back in I don't know, but it was back when we made pies. One day, the head guy, Leon something or other, he says to me, Cappy, today I don't want you to make a pie. I want you to make a cartoon. Well, Rudy Ising and Hugh Harmon and Frizz and me and some other guy with a lisp was brought on board. And then we made our first cartoon, which was a Bosco and Honey. Well, we made a few of those, and then pies! We made pies! The cartoons came later.
And speaking of cartoons, let's get this show on the road.
And welcome once again to the Animanicast. We are the only podcast that's dedicated to the animated television series, the Animaniacs. Here we explore the series episode by episode, revisiting all of the cultural references and gags that we can find, and in the end, we give each episode a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again is my brother Nathan.
Turtle Power!
And across the country in Georgia is Kelly.
Hello.
Nathan was very worried just a minute ago that he didn't have a catchphrase. So
I don't know.
I'm glad that you pulled out Turtle Power.
It's from In Sleep Talks on Twitter.
Oh, it's what you say? That's something you said when you were asleep?
Yep.
His wife has a Twitter account, and she tweets things that Nathan says when he is sleeping. And sometimes he has very insightful things to talk about.
Yeah.
And other times, he's apparently just saying turtle power.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the insightful things, but okay.
No, you gave me a great tip about Oregon Trail, playing the game Oregon Trail.
Doing it two people. You could just, each person can play two people.
Yeah.
So then
we're talking about the board game Oregon Trail, by the way. Anyway.
That was the last time I slept talk.
Hey, if you want any of those, go once again. What's your sleep talking? It's
In Sleep Talks.
N Sleep Talks, at N Sleep Talks. So there you go. There's a plug. Well, today we are going to be talking about an episode that is,
it's an episode.
It's an episode, I'll say.
A whole 20-something minutes worth, I would say.
That's a good description of it. The segments are Animator's Alley, Can't Buy a Thrill, and Hollywoodchuck. Nathan, in a few words, I guess your description was...
An episode.
It's an episode.
Like an entire episode.
Kelly, do you have any few words for this episode?
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Yay! Excellent description. So before we get into today's episode, Nathan,
yes,
tell us, when did this episode first premiere?
All right, Joey, this episode first premiered on Tuesday, November 16th of 1993, which is, of course, Pete Davidson's birthday.
Who's Pete Davidson?
Oh, he's from Saturday Night Live? Like, he's
one of the people on it right now?
Yeah, he's on right now. Pete Davidson, like, Pete, he plays funny people on it.
Oh, okay.
He's like the funny guy on it.
Oh, the funny guy. Okay.
If you look up a picture, it'll be like, that's Pete Davidson, and you'll be quite impressed.
So
that he's that young.
Okay. Yeah.
Also,
Pete Davidson. He's the younger guy who plays kids on. Well, I say kids on Saturday Night Live, but he's like the youngest cast member. Okay.
And Jim Carrey files for divorce with his first wife, Melissa, I think, or something like that.
Oh, there you go.
So,
the beginning and the end of
It's a birth
different things.
and
An ending. So, but anyway, so there you go. Very interesting. Thank you, Nathan.
you are welcome.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our first segment, I suppose you could say. It's not really a segment. It's more of little bumpers, really.
Yeah.
It's called Animator's Alley.
And now, Animator's Alley. Your hosts, the Warner Brothers.
And Animator's Alley is kind of just a series of, short little snippets of an interview with an old animator named Cappy Capernhouse, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
Okay.
So old Cappy is talking with the Warners, and it basically is telling them about how in the past at Warner Brothers they used to make pies, and he goes on and on about pies and goes on and on about all the different cartoon characters that they had in the past. And throughout this entire, long rambling talk that he just keeps droning on and on, the Warners are making weird faces. They're squirting each other with squirt guns. They are melting on the seat because they're so bored.
Yeah.
And eventually they just put little dummies up on their chairs instead and leave. And just the little dummies just nod their heads. And at the very end of the episode, you can hear them inside the water tower going to bed.
Yeah, saying goodnight to each other.
Yeah, and Cappy's still in there talking to basically himself.
Yeah, he just says, pies. We made pies. And I think that's how it ends.
So, there's a few cultural references, or I guess you could say animation references in this. I mean, he's talking about Freeling. I believe it's like Friz Freeling, animator. Talks about him for a second. He talks a lot about just fictitious cartoon characters.
Yeah, some of them had funny names. But...
Yeah, but one of them was actually real, and I've actually seen some of them, which he mentions Bosco and Honey, which were a set of cartoons that were, this was like, it must have been one of the first, if not the first, cartoons that Warner Brothers actually produced. I remember watching Bosco and Honey cartoons on Nickelodeon as a kid. They would show old Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes cartoons in the evening, and one of them they would show was Bosco and Honey. Now, the thing with Bosco and Honey is they are very much a product of their time. You look at them today, and Bosco looks very much, and I don't know if this was their original intention, but I'm pretty sure it was. It was some cartoon character in blackface, I believe. So, not a character that is talked about very often today. And honestly, as a kid, I didn't even know and I still don't know for absolutely sure if it is supposed to be a person in blackface, just because the characteristics are so blown out and just over the top that I can't really tell if it's even a person. If it makes it. I mean, it has arms and feet and everything, but I'm pretty sure it's a blackface character, which back in the 1930s, that was like pretty much every other cartoon character would look like that. So, they're kind of swept under the rug today. And usually
we try not to think about those.
Yes. But what did you guys think about Animator's Alley? Any particular parts that stood out for you?
I thought the animation style was amazing. Not amazing.
Oh, there you go.
Bad. It was bad. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that Cappy keeps talking about how important lips are to draw.
Yeah.
And yet the freelance animation company that was animating this could not get the lips correct. Really, well, they did pretty well on Cappy.
Yeah, Cappy looked good.
I almost feel that might have been one animator doing the because it's a one shot with Cappy.
Maybe.
And then Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are just... Yeah, when Yakko talks, which they don't talk that much in it.
Yeah, luckily.
You just kind of look, again, like squishy faces, and they just look off-model.
Yeah.
We've had this problem every time we see this company, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's like the Miss Flamel episode was like this, and the Moby or Not Moby, I think, was another example of the animation taking away from the dialogue, which in this is not that much dialogue, so it's not that big of a deal.
Like it's throughout the whole episode. I like that it's before the song, after the song, and then between each episode, and then right before the
Yeah, it's kind of
Credits.
you're bumpered with bad animation.
Yeah,
sort of.
bookmarked and... I don't
So
know.
not the best animation, but Kelly, any moments that stood out for you in these Animator Alley things?
One of the ones that stood out was his story about Bunyan Boy.
Yes.
In 1954, I got a bunion, so I figures, what if a bunion could talk? That's when I come up with Bunyan Boy. Bunyan Boy lived on a farmer's toe. I think that was a mistake. Farmers step in things that aren't decent.
That was just gross.
Yeah, 'cause-
And the funny thing was I watched it on closed captioning.
Uh-huh.
I watch a lot of stuff on closed captioning because I'm watching like while I'm on my lunch break and different things like that. So watching on my phone, so it helps me try to not to miss stuff. And so the name is Bun Ion Boy.
yeah, I saw that too.
So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I saw that too. I thought I was like, I don't know if that was the initial intention of Bunyan Boy, but okay, Bun Ion Boy works too. And the cartoon character that I thought was kind of an interesting, I'd like to see a cartoon would be that tapeworm in the
Oh, yeah.
in what was it, a cow or something, a British cow, and his name was Sir Poops a Lot or something. So just when you actually stop and when I stopped paying attention to the bad animation and I was just paying attention to the funny things that Cappy was just kind of rambling on about, they're not that bad. It's just
Yeah, exactly. It's still not hilarious. But it's...
It wasn't funny, haha.
No.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get to our first major segment of today's episode, and that is Can't Buy a Thrill. And Can't Buy a Thrill was written by Peter Hastings, and it was directed by Michael Gerard and Dave Marshall. And Kelly, what could you tell us? What basically happens in Can't Buy a Thrill?
The Hip Hippos, Flavio and Marita, are sitting around in their penthouse, and they're bored. Marita's been trying to read bestsellers, and Flavio keeps golfing, and he's so bored with golfing, he says, I can golf with my eyes closed, and magically, or basically with the help of Gina Embryo, he ends up getting a hole-in-one even while blindfolded. And so they decide to go in search of some thrills. And they get a catalog that has adventures and thrills, and each one has like a rating based on how exciting it's supposed to be. So they do a few different things. They go bungee jumping, which I'm no adventure enthusiast, really. So I don't know. But I have never seen people bungee jump from a hot air balloon. Cliffs, yes, and other things, high up buildings, but hot air balloon, that seems a little crazy to me. And then they go in for the running of the bulls, but Marita says, I do not run. And so Flavio says that they'll simply stroll. And Gina Embryo is freaking out because she's afraid that, her precious, fragile hippos will be trampled by the bulls. And then they decide to go swimming with the great white shark. And I really feel like a Jaws moment was lost here. There could have been some sort of homage. I was disappointed. But they jump into the water, and it's kind of like when you're in a pool and something heavy goes into the pool and the water all rushes out. All the ocean around their boat goes away. And then they're sitting on this rock and say that they're still bored, and the only thing exciting in their lives are themselves.
Yay.
Yeah, that was kind of the end right there. Moral, I thought, was just like, how are we going to wrap this up?
Yeah.
We're great. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt like they didn't know how to end it necessarily.
Yeah.
I feel like Well, both cartoons, but yeah.
And I totally agree, Kelly. I mean, as soon as I heard, oh, they're going to go see a shark, like, I at least thought that the music would do a little homage to Jaws, or I was really hoping for Gina Embryo to look at them and say, oh no, they're going to need a bigger boat or something like that. Like, it would have been so easy.
They could have had a cameo of like the boat captain on the boat.
Oh yeah. He could, so a totally missed opportunity. But we were talking about...
Or even the boat could have been named Orca.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. The boat kind of looked like the orca a little bit.
Because it looked like a boat, and so did the orca?
I don't know. Maybe I was grasping at straws. Like, I saw it and I thought, oh, maybe like the orca. And no, not really. But whatever. There was one Spielberg reference, though, that I could find. And I was proud of myself because I was the only one. We were talking before the show, and I was the only one of the three to notice it. And that is
I was watching on my phone.
It's not my fault. The one Spielberg reference that I could really point out would be the adventure book that they're all looking at.
Adventure for the Rich.
The Rich, and the R in the word rich is like a Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And it has the same color scheme of
so
red and yellow.
That's an Indiana Jones font right there. So I was glad to see that. By the way, Kelly, I just looked up. You can go on bungee jumps for off hot air balloons.
How
That's
much?
Crazy.
It's $99 for a hot air balloon bungee jump from Adventurist Air Voyages in Lewiston, wherever that is.
That's a free plug for you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Groupon is no longer available.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
But yeah, you can look it up. You could go for some places for just $100. You can go up in a hot air balloon and jump off.
Risk your life.
Risk your life.
You risk your life.
A much better episode. No, okay. But the other... some of the quick cultural reference things that they had in this one were, Kelly already mentioned one right at the beginning, which was the Klaatu Barada Nikto, which I forget, that was in a previous episode too. I forget which one, but I want to say that I want to say we discussed that before, because Klaatu Barada Nikto was, those are all names of aliens in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi, but the original origin is from the day the Earth stood still, the old movie, and then I'm assuming the remake with Keanu Reeves later on. I'm assuming they probably said it too.
Probably. I saw the movie.
I
Can't remember
literally
it.
just forgot until the second that there even was a remake. It was that forgettable.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they can't all be John Wick, you know.
Yeah.
Or
John Wick was great.
Or Bill and Ted, you know. I'm just going to forget about the Matrix because the 2 out of the 3 aren't really that great. Anyway.
Yeah, but 1 is really good.
One's okay. The other quick things, they talk about Ernest Hemingway in this, because Ernest Hemingway wrote a lot about bullfights and things like that.
I thought this was supposed to be dangerous. Everything Hemingway did is overrated.
Literary reference right there.
Ernest Hemingway is probably the kind of guy that would jump out of a hot air balloon on a bungee cord.
See, I'm not that familiar with him, other than I know he was kind of, he's other than described as kind of the man's man who, liked adventures and shooting things and drinking a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he was, he was in an episode of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Okay, yes, I was.
Okay. I believe it was, I want to say it was Italy, 1916. He and Young Indy are vying for the affections of a woman, and Anakin's mother from the prequels is in that episode.
Oh, but, Pernilla August.
Yeah, Pernilla August. Yeah, she plays an Italian woman in that episode.
Huh.
And but he was an ambulance driver, so he was in the war, and he was also a journalist. I want to say that he was like a war correspondent as well. Like he wrote on the war and stuff. And but yeah, I think he just was kind of like this, live life large kind of person. Obviously had a drinking problem and, killed himself, but
Yeah. Wow.
He kind of lived a pretty interesting life up until then.
Yeah, cool. I just watched an episode of Young Indiana Jones recently, and Ian McDermott was in it.
Huh.
The Emperor. He was in the.
That was the Phantom Train of Doom.
No. Was it? No, it was the Trenches of Hell or something. It was the one where Indy was a courier, and he goes into this party, I think, and he sees him there, and I just thought that was cool to see Indiana Jones and Palpatine in the same room. Just weird. But anyway.
Oh, here's just reading up on Ernest Hemingway. You don't have to put any of this in or anything,
Okay.
but he went on safari to Africa where he was almost killed in 2 successive plane crashes.
Oh,
wow.
So
Snakes on a plane?
But I don't know if he actually was a war correspondent, but he was a journalist.
Well, yeah. Well, as you said, he lived large and transitioned back to the large Hip Hippos again. Huh?
He always he's always reminded me of like a Teddy Roosevelt kind of character.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Kind of like my grandfather loved Teddy Roosevelt and always kind of like idolized him. So yeah, Ernest Hemingway does kind of remind me of that kind of personality. Well, the only other quick little reference that I could see to really anything else was they played the opera Carmen, or at least a selection from it, when Gina Embryo was being chased by the bulls. And of course, the opera Carmen deals with bullfighting, so it would make sense to play a little bit of that in there. Yeah. And other than that, that's pretty much it for the cultural references. Are there any moments, guys, that really stood out as amusing or funny to you guys in this first one?
I thought the bungee jump scene was fairly funny, where they keep smushing Gina.
Yeah, that one was kind of funny how it didn't always smash her the first time, like in the outhouse.
Mm-hmm. It smashes, and then it smashed her.
And then it smashed her. And what a bad place to get smashed, too, by the way, is in an outhouse. Would probably be the worst.
I think they were trying to think of the terrible place. No. I thought the bowls kind of looked like the Looney Tune bowl. That like Bugs Bunny would have to...
Yeah, they look reminiscent of that.
And the Animaniacs, the Warners, make a cameo in this.
Yeah, along with Ralph, who does not look like he's colored.
No,
he's like wearing all one same blue color.
It's a weird,
He color coordinated himself a little too much that day, and he just looked...
So there was a little bit off on that. But
yeah. The part I liked was just a very small little part. Well, I did kind of like, when I watched it the second time, the different things that they would call each other. Like the yeast-free crumb or cake or something like that. Or
I have an idea. Flavio, look! Thrill-seeking adventures for the rich.
Sounds delicious, my small crumbly crumb from a no-yeast cake.
Kelly, anything that any moment that you really liked in this Hip Hippos one?
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting how no matter what happened, they had no idea that Gina Embryo was watching them. And even at the very end, where they're basically sitting on top of her, they're completely oblivious. They're too wrapped up in themselves and their own adventures. Yeah.
And maybe just like rhinos or something, because I always heard that rhinos have bad eyesight. So perhaps like the hippos have bad eyesight as well. Maybe. I don't know. But
but Flavio can hit a golf ball with his eyes, covered.
That's true. Maybe not.
He should be able to see a woman like standing 2 feet away from him with giant binoculars.
I just want the final Hip Hippos episode just to have them look at each other and just go, "Can you believe this woman who's been following us around the entire time?"
I think that would be hilarious.
Be great.
See, it's another lost moment, just like the Spielberg moment with the shark.
Well, let's go ahead and get over to our next major cartoon, which is Hollywoodchuck. Now, Hollywoodchuck was written by Paul Rugg, and it was directed by Greg Reyna. And Nathan, what you can tell us? What happens in Hollywoodchuck?
Oh, okay. So Hollywoodchuck, we have a young Baynard's Woodchuck, but he changes his name to Charlton Woodchuck.
Yes.
And he takes off for the glitz of Hollywood. And he figures he's going to be a huge star. So he gets on the bus, and some people start annoying him. He gets anyone's name. He writes down in a book, "You annoy me, so when I'm a star, I'll know who to get mad at or something."
Yeah.
So he actually does well in the audition, surprisingly. He gets the role. He's in Hollywood, but the movie is just a movie where they're pretty much herding woodchucks the entire time. So he has to play with bears and get attacked by woodpeckers and snakes and then explosive dynamite until he finally quits and goes back home. So
I forget the explosive dynamite. I forget that part.
He goes into a room that says dynamite, and
wow, I honestly don't even remember that part. I tuned out by the time
he explodes and then lands right into the bear, and then the bear catches him, and then he says, "Can I have your name?"
Oh,
and then that's how. And then he, at the very end, he goes to his room, back in his house, and he has a huge pile of papers. List of names, and I'm like, I don't know, it's always creepy when someone's writing lists of names, and I'm like, I don't know what you're planning to do with those.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's just going to write angry letters to all these people. I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, like not like Billy Madison where he's writing down people's names
and then,
to take out later with Steve. Yeah, Steve Buscemi is crossing off names off his list. So, watch out.
Yeah, whenever someone has a list of names, it's kind of weird. But so it's just going to write lots of angry letters to all these people.
That's what we're going to say.
And apparently he has huge lips, I guess, because he keeps getting lips stuck into different things.
Yeah, he has a problem with that.
But there you go. It's a very lip-heavy episode.
Well, there's not really. I didn't really see much of any reference to much other stuff in this. I mean, there's a few little things like he grows up in Wheatina, Kansas, I believe, and Wheatina is a brand of hot wheat cereal that was around a long time ago. There's a quick thing it was Wheatina, Kansas, because later on they're leaving Kansas, and then the sign says, "You're not in Kansas anymore."
Yep.
So Wizard of the Oz.
Yeah,
right?
as I like to say. Oh.
Let's see, and really the whole documentary at the end was similar to a lot of Walt Disney nature documentaries from the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were kind of going for in this, because a lot of times in those, you'd have that, and I forget the narrator's name, but he would be, I don't know, in all these Disney wildlife things back then, and he'd always go, "Oh, there's Mr. Gopher," and
he wants to be friends with this other thing.
Yeah. Well, usually I'd watch these, and I remember one as a kid watching it about prairie dogs, and they'd show these in school too, even though these movies were 20, 30 years old, but that was like the only nature documentaries really back in the 80s that you could really watch in school. So they'd bring out the projector and you watch these old Walt Disney documentaries on gophers. And I remember seeing like this moment in the film where a snake goes into the prairie dog's den, and usually you'd think like, "Ooh, okay, that's interesting." But then I realized, wait a minute, they're showing a split, like a section of this, so you could see the different levels of the prairie dog's house. So that means that this was all staged, meaning the people who were doing this documentary just shoved a snake into this poor prairie dog's house so they could watch the prairie dog fight off the snake. And so it kind of reminded me of that situation, like putting this poor woodchuck through all these, interactions with animals who were trying to kill him.
Yeah, they're like, "Play with the bear, play with the bear."
Play with the bear. The only other thing that I don't know if it was supposed to be a reference to it, but it reminded me of it, was the audition sequence reminded me of The Producers.
Yeah, me too. Well, that's because he says, that's our woodchuck.
Oh, he said, okay.
How much wood?
That's it! Such reality! That's my woodchuck!
Just a flower. A flower. What you doing to my flower, man?
Everything else. Everything else. A flower. That's our Hitler!
Okay, good. I think Paul Rugg, who wrote this, I'm pretty sure he's a fan of the producers. I'll ask him. Why not? I'll send him a message.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that is probably a lift from the producers, where they're doing auditions to find out who's going to be playing Hitler in their musical Springtime for Hitler, and they end up auditioning a lot of weirdos, and they hire a hippie.
Exactly. So, and that's kind of reminiscent, because the two other people were like good classical actors or something,
and a lot of those people were classical actors who were playing Hitler, like singing and doing all that stuff. So, yeah, I think that was kind of cool.
Slappy makes a cameo.
Yeah, she walked by,
and Ralph again was in this one.
Yeah, he's holding a magazine or newspaper.
But
yeah,
it's like,
I was looking for. I thought this one. After the first Hip Hippos one, I was kind of like, okay, well, whatever. But then I saw this one coming up, and I'm like, oh, Paul Rugg wrote this one. I like Paul Rugg stuff. And then I saw it, and I was like, well, I like the part where he keeps saying, there's that bear again.
Uh-oh, there's that bear again.
But that's pretty much all I could really think of that I kind of chuckled a little bit at. What do you guys think? Kelly, any moments that stuck out for you in this woodchuck cartoon?
I just thought it was clever the way the woodchuck, would get out of one scrape and almost immediately get into something else. And they had him going back and forth between this bear and this snake and this tree like a pinball machine.
Yeah.
And it's just like boom, 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 boom. And so I thought that was kind of funny to watch. And, he'd drop down the snake's mouth, and he'd spit him out, and he'd like, boom, to the bear, and then boom, to the beehive, and boom, to the tree. So, I almost felt bad for him, but I thought he was kind of like an arrogant jerk at the beginning of the cartoon anyway, so I thought he needed to be taken down a little bit. But I actually kind of felt sorry for him after all that, because that's what they have stunt woodchucks for, and he didn't sign up for that.
Right? He wanted to just be an actor. He's not Jackie Chan.
And he didn't totally. And he didn't learn his lesson at the end. He was still arrogant at the end of the cartoon.
I know. That was what the worst part was.
Wow.
Nathan, what about you?
I liked when he kept asking for a break. Can we take a break? And just the way he says that is very funny. He says right before he's about to blow up or play with a bear or something. Just sorry, can we?
Yeah, I thought it was slightly humorous too, how the director would just keep going, like, no, and just keep going, keep going.
Motion
this
for him
is
to
great.
Go on.
Yeah. And overall, I mean, for some reason, I do remember when this one started up, I was like, okay, I'm remembering this cartoon, but I don't know. I don't know why I remember it, because it's not that memorable for me right now. So that was Hollywoodchuck.
This way to commercials. Hey, it wasn't my idea.
Well, today's show is brought to you by one of our new sponsors.
Sponsor?
That's right. We are sponsored this week by TeePublic. And I don't know about you guys, but I go to TeePublic a lot for...
Twice a day, at least.
Yes. Well, I actually go there for my t-shirt needs quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I have... For the Animanicast, I bought a t-shirt for us through TeePublic. But I've also gotten a few t-shirts that I get compliments all over whenever I wear one. I have one in particular that's a Ron Burgundy, and he looks like Han Solo.
Okay.
With Baxter as Chewbacca next to him. And it's
Cute.
called it's called Han Burgundy. That's what it's called. So I wear that, and people always say, where did you get that shirt? I say, TeePublic. So,
and that's why they're sponsoring.
Exactly. Because I told enough people, and they said no. No. What TeePublic has done is they were nice enough to say, hey, why don't you folks at the Animanicast go ahead and create a store, and not only so you can show off your design of the Animanicast shirt, but also any other designs that you think are really applicable to your show. Oh, say Animaniacs designs, or Spielberg designs, or Yoda designs, or Star Wars designs, or whatever. So, that's what we did. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can head over to tpublic.com/stores/Animaniacast and check out a full selection of all the different Animaniacs shirts that they have. And, it's a win-win situation because not only do you get a cool shirt that you cannot get on store shelves. You cannot go to Target or Walmart.
Yeah, these are better than those shirts.
They are much better. You're helping out the artist who made the shirt originally, and you're helping out the Animanicast as well.
Which you love. So.
Exactly. So it's a win-win-win situation. And so what we're going to do today is do the TeePublic Animanicast pick of the shirt of the day of the... What are we going to call this thing?
It's a pick-a-thon.
A pick-a-thon. We're going to talk about a t-shirt and then who designed it, what we like about it, and send you on over there and you can check it out yourself. So let's start with Kelly.
Yes.
What t-shirt design do you want to show off and talk about today?
Well, it was hard for me to pick one, but I was looking and one just jumped out at me that I was like, I have to have this shirt and I must own it now. It's a Teacups t-shirt, and so it's based on the Mad Tea Party ride from Walt Disney World and Disneyland, and it says "Let's go for a spin," and the font is kind of in that fun font that's on the ride, and it's got a picture of the teacup from the Mad Tea Party ride, and that, if you don't know, it's my absolute most favorite ride in the whole world, and I always go and ride it like 7 to 10 times when I'm at Disney World, and I'm going in 3 weeks. Woo!
Woo!
So I love this shirt, and it's available in a lot of colors, and it's designed by Trey Lemons, and I'm about to order it now.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's one of the really cool things, too, about TeePublic that I love is actually that you do get to pick your color shirt as well. And you can get it on other things too. You don't have to get on a shirt.
Yeah.
You can get on laptop case or mugs. Like we have Animanicast mugs that we got through TeePublic, which look really cool, and they keep my beverages nice and hot.
And you get different styles too of your shirt.
Oh yeah,
if you want.
Totally, lots of options.
Yeah.
Nathan, what about you? What's your pick of the shirt?
I chose this lovely shirt here. It's called Puff Maniacs, and it's the Powerpuff Girls mashed up with the Animaniacs, and it's just adorable. I love how cute all the Warners look. Basically, they're just cute. I think boy or girl could wear this, and they'd love it. It's by Italics, and that's my shirt for the.
Cool. That if you're a Powerpuff Girl a fan and a Animaniac fan, that would be an awesome design. I am going to go with the design called Freakier Things by Ikazans. Ikazans. And the reason I like this is because it's a Freakazoid shirt, but it's done in the Stranger Things kind of format of font, and Freakazoid's hair and eyeballs are kind of sticking out the top of the font, and it's subtle, and it's definitely one of those shirts that if you didn't know any better, people would just pass you by and that would be about it. But if I wear this shirt, then I'll be like, not only am I going to find people that A, like Stranger Things like I do, but B, know what Freakazoid is, and we're going to be able to have conversations about them. So that's one of the cool things about these kinds of shirts, too.
They're good conversation starters.
Totally. So there you go. So once again, check out these designs and more over at tpublic.com/stores/Animanicast. Just check the link in the show notes as well if that's too long for you.
Yeah.
And
thanks.
Thank you, TeePublic.
You want a show? We'll give you a show. Back to Animaniacs.
At the very end, there is one more reference to pop culture stuff. And it's at the very end after the credits, they say, "Sit, Ubu, sit."
Sit, Ubu, sit.
And Nathan, do you remember that in anything?
No. No.
Kelly, you must remember "Sit, Ubu, sit," right? Being a
Yes, good dog.
There you go. Good. Yes, that's from Family Ties.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, no, like my sound cut out again, but yeah, I totally remember that from Family Ties.
Yeah, hearing it on Family Ties, and I think one or two other sitcoms that I used to watch. But I always loved that as a kid, seeing it. I would always say it with the guy.
Me too.
Well, let's go ahead and get, I suppose, to our water tower rating. Woo! So, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give today's episode? Kelly, let's start with you.
Ooh, this has been this tough. I will give it just a 3. I mean, I guess decent scores. It's about average.
Yeah.
So, but there weren't really any standouts or anything like super awesome about this episode. But it was fine. I laughed at a couple different places, and it overall was enjoyable. So yeah, 3.
Okay. Well, Nathan, what about you?
I'm going to give it 2 water towers.
2.
Just because neither cartoon was like really, I'm fine if I never see either cartoon again. And the animation for those middle segments was just that bad. That I was just, but.
Well, I was actually thinking about giving this, Kelly,
5?
No, Kelly gave it 3, you gave it 2, and I was on my way over here, and I was thinking to myself, this might be a 1.
Yeah,
but I'm not. I changed my mind in the car right over here, and I'm thinking 1.5.
All right.
1.5 water towers, because 1 just seems too low. 1.5 seems pretty low as well, but really, I don't know. It's just, I didn't laugh one time.
And it didn't really feel like an Animaniacs episode.
It didn't.
When I'm watching the Woodchuck, and I was like, is this the same episode? Like, it felt long, even though it wasn't. I don't know. But that's why I got, yeah. So I think 2.2, 2.33, I don't know what. Well,
come on, Nathan, you're a numbers person. Well, let's go ahead and get over to our water... Wait.
I wanted to do 2 water towers,
no,
please.
That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say, let's get over to our poll results from last week.
Woo!
Hello again, this is your announcer with this week's Animanicast poll result. Listeners were asked, who is your favorite good feather? Hashtag Animaniacs, hashtag Animanicast poll. 15% said Bobby. 21% said Squid. 30% said Pesto. But, of course, 34% gave it to none other than the God Pigeon. Well, there you go. Now it's back to the studio with a brand new poll.
Okay, so those were our poll results, and what do you guys think? Who's your favorite good feather and why? Nathan, we'll start with you. Who's your
voted
favorite?
for the God Pigeon, of course.
Why is that?
Well, just anytime he talks, it's just very funny, and he always seems to solve the problems of the other ones. So,
Kelly, what about you?
I like Pesto because he's the one that's always getting mad and saying "that's it" and fighting with people. And I guess it was the last one with the good feathers, and Bobby called him an optimist, and he's like, "Do I look like somebody who's going to examine your eyes?" And he mixes up words all the time. I thought that was funny.
I got to go with you, Kelly. I'm saying Pesto as well. That is just he's just too He's probably the most quotable of all the good pigeons, good feathers, whatever I'm trying to say.
The God pigeons.
Well, let's go ahead and get over to our new poll for this week. And Nathan, since we had a little cartoon about a woodchuck, we have a cartoon that's about what? Our cartoons about...
We do have cartoons about...
We have a poll, I should say, about...
Anything that's not Animaniacs.
Yes.
Which of these non-traditional Animaniacs episodes is your favorite Animaniacs segment? I guess. So we have like the flame. We have Wings Take Heart. That's the one where the fly's falling in love with a butterfly, or
something
moth
like
is
that.
falling in love with
Moth
a
and a butterfly, I think.
Yeah. There's White Gloves, where the gloves escape the water tower and go on a little adventure. And then there was today's episode, Hollywoodchuck.
Okay, so there you go. So head on over to twitter.com/Animaniacast, or simply search on Twitter for hashtag Animanicast poll to make your voice heard. Woo. All right, well, now it's time to get to some listener feedback. Nathan, hit us with a listener feedback song.
Listener feedback. It's a listener feedback. Yeah, it's listener feedback. Now let's go.
I thought the song was over before.
Okay.
It
kind of,
kept on.
It should have ended.
It should have ended
before
a while
it started.
Okay. Well, William joins in once again with some feedback, and this time he's going to talk to us about what his thoughts were on broadcast nuisance.
Broadcast nuisance is a big mess to me. The Warners are a little bit cruel here, and Dan Aykroyd's treatment in this episode is just way too much. I mean, I understand that this is a little bit early in production run, seeing as how Yakko and Wacko's voice are rough in the Startoons. Animation is a bit choppy, but I really find it hard to sit through this episode. I mean, Anchorman's treatment is a little bit too cruel, and the Warners really don't deserve the payment, because seeing as how they ate his food right in front of him, and they don't even deserve the tip. I mean, you ate his food, and you really think you deserve a tip for that? That's just a big no for me. And the overseas versions that I saw, where it's more uncut, it's a lot more crueler. And him from Anchorman holding on to wire and getting actually shot by it, it's just, ooh, that's just a little too much right there. And even though the overseas version feels more complete than the one we get in the U.S., it's still a lot more cruel than what we got in the United States. And Raging Bull is alright. It's not terrible by any means. It's just one of the last Goodfellas shorts that's tolerable.
Oh,
but
wow!
And I just didn't enjoy it that much. I'm gonna give this episode a 1 water tower out of 5. Didn't really care for it. I think it's one of the worst of the entire series. But thanks for letting me speak on this. I truly am enjoying the show.
All right, thank you, William. And he said Raging Bull. I think he meant Raging Bird, right? I don't think he was reviewing the Scorsese film there.
Well, that Scorsese film was probably the worst Goodfellas.
It really was the worst Goodfellas.
You don't even see the Goodfellas in it.
I know. Gosh. Did you call that a Goodfellas? No.
Yeah, I have the same complaints about that.
Well, yeah. Nathan was mentioning, the treatment that the Warners give Dan Anchorman is a little extreme. Yeah. Especially considering the fact that
they never gave him a sandwich.
Never gave him the sandwich at the beginning of the thing. So yeah, I think a few of these episodes end up making the Warners look like they're the bad guys, and maybe a little bit of retooling or whatever might have
all you
helped.
need to do is give him a sandwich at the beginning.
And that's the thing. The Warners are always kind of like seem like they're too cute to be evil, you know. So if they weren't, let's face it, if they weren't so cute, boy, we would think like these are horrible children.
If these are just like gremlins or something, like
eating your sandwiches and asking for tips. Oh yeah, you would not be on the side of the Animaniacs right here. It's the Warners, but
if they weren't funny, you know.
So we have one more piece of listener feedback right here, and this comes from Eric Faulkner. And Eric writes to us saying, with some feedback about Fair Game and our discussion about that game show episode.
That Quiz Me Quick.
Quiz Me Quick! I always loved it when Rob Paulson says that. But anyway, he mentions, I'm surprised you did not mention the Ducksters cartoon when mentioning the Rock of Gibraltar. And I had no idea what the heck he was talking about when I said the Ducksters cartoon. So I looked it up. The Ducksters cartoon is a cartoon from Looney Tunes, back in, I'm going to guess and say the 1940s or something like that. But Daffy Duck is the game show host, and Porky Pig is the contestant. And Daffy Duck is basically putting him through a bunch of challenges and questions, and when Porky doesn't get it right, he punishes him. It's kind of like that episode of The Simpsons where they go on a Japanese game show or something, and they have to be punished if they don't get it right. Well, that's basically the cartoon right there. But one of the things that Porky Pig wins is the Rock of Gibraltar.
Wow.
And they actually drop a giant Rock of Gibraltar on Porky Pig at one point. So, there you go.
In my hand, you'll notice I hold 2 buzzers. You must push one. Hurry now, which one? Quick! Good, clean, wholesome fun. You're a great sport. A great sport. Could I please take my prizes and go home now? I'm not feeling too well. And for being such a great sport, I'm going to let you push the other button and win a prize. Come on now, don't be bashful. Push. And the gentleman wins the Rock of Gibraltar.
So, yeah, definitely a strong connection right there that I was not aware of, but I definitely think that there's a good connection right there, and it's a very funny cartoon, so you can check it out. It's called The Ducksters, and it's, I believe, that title is based upon the movie The Hucksters, which was, I believe it was a movie about game shows back in the 30s or 40s.
Probably.
I'm going to guess. But
yeah. I mean, it has to be, right?
Yeah. So there we go. So thank you very much for that feedback, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get to contact information. So, Kelly, where can people go online to reach out to you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Yoda Princess, or email me, kelly@bigshinyrobot.com.
And Nathan, what about you?
I'm on Twitter, DjangoFT. That's me.
And you can find us online at, of course, retrozap.com/Animanicast, where you can see a full listing of our previous shows and show notes. You can also find us on Twitter, on Facebook, and you can send us an email, which is animanicast@retrozap.com. And speaking of retrozap.com, you should head over there for a listing of different articles, videos, and podcasts, all of which you should check out. Because why? Because it's fantastic and awesome. Especially if you're nerdy like I am, then you know what you should really do is go to iTunes and subscribe to the RetroZap podcast feed, and that way you can get every single RetroZap podcast delivered straight to your device.
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. Well, with that, I think it's time to wrap up things. So for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.